On one side, Russia under the government of Putin. On the other, the European Union, and in the middle of the two, a country that suffers the most consequential war in Europe after World War II. The Russian troops are inside Ukraine. This is a scary and unpredictable moment. Europe is going backward after having lived a long period without wars. The army of Russia is stronger than soldiers from Ukraine. NATO cannot send its troops because of the fear of the clash of nuclear stations, a red line that nobody wants to cross from the Cold War. Why is Putin doing this?
It certainly looks like that just the pure existence of Ukraine is provocative for Russia and for the leader Vladimir Putin.
For Putin, the land of Ukraine belongs to Russia, not to a far-right nationalist party that controls the country and spreads Russophobia. In Russia, there was a belief that there was a Nazi government in Ukraine and Putin should save this country. The family of the president of Ukraine, Zelensky, is Jewish and died in the Holocaust. Ukraine is not being manipulated by neo-Nazis.
There are people are really disinformed, and they believe that the Russians making some good things here, and that Ukrainians are really bad guys, and Europe are really bad, and Americans are the awfulest people at all. They have such information. They don't have the real news at all.
The information from those republics is quite limited. I mean, all the information goes filtered through Russia, through the Russian Federation.
What kind of information are the Russians using? What kind of media? What's the name of the media outlets that they are using?
The propaganda outlet of the Russian Federation, RT network, is interesting. You mentioned it because actually just today they've been blocked in the whole European Union, including all Russian channels.
Truth can be manipulated with media in the wrong hands. Federal media spreads the same misinformation, the belief that people in Ukraine have been brainwashed by the West.
It is reminiscent of the practices and methods of Nazi Germany.
And we're seeing a full revival of Nazism and fascism in Ukraine.
Ukraine had a far-right groups, but those radical minorities didn't reach participation in the parliament. The presence of those groups generated in Russia the fear that they could govern the country. From the start, Ukraine was separated between the people who wanted an association with Russia and who wanted the adherence to the European Union. A part of Ukrainian territory had always been identified with Russia. In 2013, with the government of Viktor Yanukovych, the European Union invited him to join the community. Ukraine was close to being another community member, but the president didn't accept the agreements with the European Union after being threatened by Putin. In 2014, Russia invaded Crimea and annexed it to its territory through an illegal referendum not recognized by the United Nations. As a response to this, extreme right groups came up to fight the Russian expansion. One of them is Azov, but they are a little part of the system, not as Putin's propaganda say.
Не позволяйте неонацистам и бендеровцам использовать ваших детей, ваших жен и стариков в качестве живого щита. Берите власть в свои руки.
Russia was the Soviet Union in 1922. The modern Russia that we know started in Kiev. The Soviet Union collapsed in 1991. All the Soviet republics, including Ukraine, became independent. The split of countries does not mean that this cultural entity is broken. In many ways, Russia and Ukraine are one. In 1999, Putin was Prime Minister of Russia. From the start of his era, he always missed the old Soviet regime. Russia started sending many troops to the frontier for avoiding the NATO expansion, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization that started in the 50s. This is a military alliance between the USA, Canada, and European Union. For Russia, NATO can use Ukraine as a bridge to attack them. This union was composed of the enemies of Russia that had the ideal democracy and capitalism and invite Western countries to their NATO military alliance.
Nothing will stop Vladimir Putin to capitulate and just leave.
I'm actually proud of my nation I'm proud of all that virus which protects us right now.
Nowadays, Ukraine is getting a country with fewer Russians. Ukraine has been a nation with 41 million people, fewer people like Russia. Most Ukrainians don't have positive attitude to Russia, and more than half of Ukrainians would like to be part of the European Union. But Ukraine is doing a resistance, not as Putin was saying that needing help. Every day, Ukrainians are fighting for their homeland. And the democratic world is also fighting this.
Dass Deutschland der Ukraine Waffen zur Verteidigung des Landes liefern wird.
He met the Ukrainian people.
To protect our compatriots exposed in Ukraine.
100 million euros for the European Peace Facility to support Ukraine's defense.
He can't start a pro-Russian regime. Ukrainians will never forget their country.